So I'm thrilled to meet you. I absolutely love Between Waves. I've watched it twice.
Oh my God. Thank
Yes,
you.
yes. I was absolutely stunned. So I'm very excited to talk to you about it. Um, so first, I just want to start with how did you and Catherine come up with the idea for this story? I saw your conversation in the director's chat, the female gaze, and you said that initially it was going to be a mermaid tale, but I want you to tell me kind of how you came to this story or how the story came to you.
Yeah. Well, it's actually really funny. So my husband's from the Azores. Well, no, sorry, not my husband. His family, my husband's father's saw my husband's father's born there, so he's got family there. So I went there a few times and visited, and just kind of had this very myself had this like it's so beautiful there, and I feel whenever I go there, I feel very much like I heal. There's
Mm-hmm.
parts of me that like, and it's a I don't know, it's a connection with nature. Like it's a very different place. It's this beautiful. I mean, it's the most beautiful place I know of on earth. So that was like this idea came to me about a woman, you know, going through grief, and having guilt about what happened to her partner. I didn't have the details, and having a mermaid call her into the water. So that was like, and so that was this thing of water and stuff like that. But then I saw this art display, and it was, and I'm actually a huge science fiction fan.
Me too.
Yeah, yeah. So I've been since I was a kid. Like I
Yeah.
consume like science fiction novels and TV and all
Yeah.
films. And so,
Nova and programs like that.
oh my God, I just like it's a whole other kind of I don't know. It's like I think through science fiction, you can explore things in our society in a different through a different lens.
Hmm.
It's like so anyway, so it was just, and then it came to me this idea about um wanting to it's like so it's a like anyway, so it was like a long loop, but I came back from it. I was away on a trip, and I came back and I said and this is when Catherine and we actually were working on a whole other project.
Hmm.
And uh, oh yeah, when I was in the Azores, I applied for funding. So we've got very lucky, like a whole bunch of arts councils here. So I applied for Canada Arts Council, and they have a writing grant, and I got $18,000 to write the script that was going to be about the mermaid and all this stuff. But then when I actually got the money, I got this idea that like, no, it's not. It's so and so the idea was that this person is kind of on the edge of trying to make choices, um, trying to deal with the guilt of her partner missing or gone, or and also trying to reconcile, like, because basically this idea of multiple universes, which just always fascinated me, is just kind of really simple. It's like every significant choice you make, uh, potentially there's like a different timeline.
Hmm.
And in that timeline, things are not quite like the choice that you made. So like you decide not to have a child, or you decide, whatever you decide, it's a different version of yourself. And they're all going at a parallel, at a parallel time.
Hmm.
And so then I was just like, this is so like, and this idea of like exploring mental illness through that,
Hmm.
because my father was bipolar, and he took his life.
Oh,
So
sorry.
yeah, so it was many years ago, but and there's always this guilt you have when somebody takes their life that's close to you,
Yeah.
because you're like, oh, I could have done this and I could have done that, and it's like this heavy rock on your chest.
Hmm.
So her guilt and this responsibility of possibly causing this, or knowing that she's been responsible, and not knowing, and also putting her in that place where what I like kind of interesting is because I lived with somebody who was like hearing things and thinking they were different people, like all these things, and this question in my head of what if their reality was actually real, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. What if they're right?
yeah, what if they're right? What if
Yeah.
what if the things that he was, he was hearing voices, he was hearing like all these things, but what if that was really going on? And so then taking that into this idea that her partner is calling him to join her in a different plane where they could be
Mm-hmm.
together, uh, but also it's a manifestation of her guilt, and this idea of the mermaid dragging her into the water. So it just
Right.
kind of all came through.
Right. Well, I like how you kind of married those two themes or concepts. Maybe is it mental illness, or is it the possibility that yes, his quantum physics theory is correct, and yes, he is actually in the parallel dimension right next to hers. Um, so where you as the viewer aren't quite sure at certain moments what she's traversing, if it
Yeah.
is just her own hallucinations coming off the benzos, or if she's genuinely experiencing this. And it kind of reminds me of a story that I read in elementary school, The Lady or the Tiger. It's, kind of how you
Yes.
perceive it as.
Yes. Yes. That's great. Oh, that's awesome. Yes, I know this story. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and then did you, what I really appreciated was how Isaac explained these quantum physics theories and the theory of parallel dimensions with such ease and such simplicity that a viewer who doesn't have any knowledge of quantum physics can completely understand this. It's not over anybody's head, but it's not over explaining. It's just so elegantly written. Um, did you consult any kind of physics or
There's oh my
manuals
God, I can't remember his first name. His last name is Green, and he's a big, he's a big theorist on quantum mechanics.
Mhm.
And so I read his book where he basically it's like he writes for not scientists, but for people like us,
Yeah.
and has like very, very simple theories and explanations and questions. And so that's where I kind of drew some of it, but some of it I I made up to do what I needed in the story. And this idea of memory, of what you remember and what you
Mhm.
think you remember.
Mhm.
And so I was kind of playing with that as well, because that is part of mental illness, but it's also, I think, part of our, like this, I mean, it's always fascinated me, like this idea that, like everything you perceive is through your senses. And
Mhm.
so it's maybe not at all what it is. Like, it's just your perception of it.
Right.
So I mean,
Right.
there's like a lot of, I guess, things in there, but to explain, why, like how you could just go from one dimension to another and then be in this life where other things could have happened. I just thought, well, that would make sense. Like if you, I don't know, I guess it doesn't make sense or doesn't make sense, but yeah. So I basically used, my God, I'm trying to remember his first name. But yeah, I sort of used his questions and ideas that he was using, and
Mhm.
then appropriated that and used it for Isaac.
Have you heard of this concept of the Mandela effect? Where
Yes.
people, yeah. So it kind of brought that to mind for me a little bit, where people remember things from all the way back to their childhood in a different way than how they actually exist and have always existed in this reality. And one of the theories around it is the parallel dimension or the parallel universe thought that maybe we have kind of all shifted to the next closest dimension. So it was bringing that to mind. And then there's a filmmaker, I think he's a special effects man, Daryl Anka, who lives in Los Angeles, who channels this entity called Bashar, who talks about quantum physics and the parallel universes and how your choices move you forward through the universes. And as you move through these parallel dimensions, that's how you perceive time.
Oh, that is so cool.
Yeah.
What's his
Yeah.
name?
His name is Daryl Anka, and he channels Bashar, Bashar. And
I'm gonna check him out.
yeah. But when you hear him talk about it, I find myself sitting and hitting rewind and listening a few times because it is so complex. And what I like about the way you and Catherine wrote this, it was very elegant. It was very straightforward, so I could follow along with it. It wasn't too convoluted. And then I also liked, I don't know if this was an intentional nod, but I was thinking of Christopher Nolan's movie Inception.
Oh my God.
2010.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
At the end. Yes. That was
Yeah.
my nod to it. It's 100% because I want like it was kind of like for a long time I was like, you know, like when you're writing, you're like, okay, I want something at the end that makes thank you.
Yes.
Because it was
Good.
like I want something at the end that makes me feel like that, the way
Right. Yes.
right
Lady of the Tiger again.
yeah, where you're like what
Wait,
like
what? Yeah.
yeah and it was like over many, you know, iterations of the script that came to this place where we're like, that's what it's going to be.
It was the perfect
Yeah, and you have to like, it's when you're writing, like you have to make a lot of mistakes and go back and rewrite and then come to that place where you're like, okay, that yeah, so I had that kind of like eureka moment. But I was looking for something like that. So another film that like we was like, it's actually Catherine is actually a really awesome writer and taught me a lot about writing. Like I had the wacky ideas and she's actually the writer. Like she's actually like, okay, this is how we're going to structure it. And I'm going to teach you about, you know, like outlining, and, you know, we would go back and then make cards and lay them all out and be like, okay, you know, this is going to happen here. Cause it's like it's not a linear story too. So it took a lot of mixing and matching. So where was I going with this? I don't remember where I was going with this. With this, oh yeah, one of the things she said to me is, like, we took the film Momentum.
Oh yeah.
And broke it down, like literally, like broke it down, like you know, the beats of it, and kind of like looked at that as a structure. So that was another film that like we did, like I didn't mimic it or anything, but it was like looking at how it was like so crafted, and you went in and out of things, because it takes time to do that anyway.
Yeah, well, it's a delicate balance between not giving too much away up front and then kind of slipping those scenes in, how you went back and forth and almost in her timeline, as we're watching her out to the boat and as she's coming to a realization of where she is and what has happened. Although you see flashes of the night that he disappeared throughout. And I thought you staggered that in beautifully. Another question I had is there any mysticism or folklore around the Azores?
I don't
mean,
know.
anything that found its way into the story?
No, I mean, it's funny. I use photo music, but that doesn't even exist on the island. Like it's from the mainland, really, that it comes from. But I just think it's really beautiful music, and we found a local photo singer, so we're like, oh my God, we're gonna do this.
Yeah, she was lovely.
Yeah, and but there's actually not that much that's that's like it's really Jamie's story.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, there's not I didn't really I don't even know, actually. It's a great question. I should probably learn some more about the Azores because I love that place.
It was beautiful. And Miguel, his character, I appreciated him, and
Oh.
I loved. I don't know how much we should talk. I don't want to give any spoilers away. So if you haven't seen the film, just fast forward for a moment. I really liked the moment in the water between Miguel and Jamie, and how they truly comfort each other in their moments of realization of the reality that they're in.
Yes.
I thought his
Yeah.
character was such a nice addition. What inspired you to add him to the story?
Um, I think she needed somebody to help her heal.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of times you heal by helping other people heal. So so then so so and Miguel, well, I guess the mysticism I create, the mysticism I create is the island is called São Miguel,
Mm-hmm.
um, which is Saint Michael, and
Mm-hmm.
the character is Miguel.
Mm-hmm.
So he's sort of the spirit of the island, because
Yes.
because it was the whole visual concept of was that the island, through all the hardship that she went on, it was a healing process.
Mm-hmm.
And dealing with her fear, like, it's an island, it's a tiny island that you could drive 2 hours from one side to the other, surrounded by complete water. So it's her dealing with her fear of water,
Mm-hmm.
and coming to terms.
Yeah.
And so this is another, like a layer, I don't know, because so she herself is water,
Mm-hmm.
and all the things that she feared, like, so she basically feared who she was,
Mm-hmm.
and in the end accepted herself. So
Mm-hmm.
feared, herself losing control, feared all those things. um,
And I feel that the waterfall scene was the final washing away, and the final cleansing and the shedding of that fear moment,
yeah.
perhaps. And that's how I took it.
Yeah. It was like letting go, and also it's also the whole time she follows the map that he leaves behind.
Mm-hmm.
But that place she finds because she gets lost, but she finds that waterfall.
Yeah.
So it's so, like, I don't know if it was on the nose, but Renata says to her, "Are you going?" She go, "I have one more place I have to visit," and Renata says, "Is it on the map?" She goes, "No, it's something like
It's
that.
on my map, is
It's
what
on
she
my
said.
map." Yeah.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
was her, like, she finds her own place, and her own place of sanctuary, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
that helps her heal.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of the map, I like, and I don't know if this was a conscious choice or not, that Isaac had marked all of the places with X's on the map, and then X became her marker. And
I'm going to
that was
tell
a,
you, yeah, I'm going to tell you something really freaky. So I mean, it's an X, right? But we we were like, when we were going, I went there. So we shot in April in the Azores, and we shot Toronto in March, and then flew to the Azores and shot there. But in February, it was me, the first assistant director, and my director of photography. We went down there to scout, and we were looking at different places, and like so the haunted house, or whatever you want to call it, that old abandoned house, was a different house that we originally looked at, but they wouldn't let us film there. But when we went to, like, we just went there ourselves. We're like, oh my God, we came there, and then on the wall there was an X.
oh,
It was
it
it
was
wasn't
already there.
why it was already there.
Oh my
And
God.
I know, it's so
I
freaky.
have
So
goosebumps all over.
yeah.
That's so crazy.
So then in the end, they didn't let us film there. They were like, because it was like falling apart. So I had somebody else who I knew on the island that was like, oh, everyone's got a falling apart house here, film there. And so we ourselves, we did that
Oh,
exercise.
okay. Okay.
But it was just kind of like, I don't know, that whole film, like, it was like a crazy miracle that it ever got made. And it's sort of like, was like the scaffolding that one thing led to another, and it was the same way of when we were writing it. Like, it's, you know, like there was this idea, and then it opened up to this, and it was the same way in making it, and finding, like, figuring out, like, when we went there to figure out all the visual places we were going to film, and it was kind of I don't know, it was a full journey where, because I wrote it, I was co-producing it, I was directing it, and I felt like I was just going on instinct, and I just let this thing, like, just take me.
Like water.
I went with the water, yeah.
Yeah. How many days did it take to shoot?
So we shot for 11 in Toronto. We shot for 9.5 days in the Azores, because a half a day was like a splinter unit where we just drove around. And we shot one day underwater, and that was in a pool because it was so low budget, we had no money. We couldn't go into a tank or anything. So we went into a pool, and we put my director of photography on a ladder. Like, we just bought a brand new ladder, put it in the pool. Everybody had weights, got him, you know, he had the blimp camera. So he had a snorkel. He would literally, like, when I tell this to people, they go, what? That's like,
oh my God.
You go into a tank. I don't know
Yeah.
how much, and you know, but here it would cost like $40,000 to go into like a professional filming tank.
Yeah.
And we were like, I think it cost us under $4,000. but yeah, so
independent filmmaking.
Yeah, so he would sit, and then we would just have the actors do their, either go down or go through and do their action, and then we just cut it together.
And did you have to do any lighting underwater?
We didn't have underwater lights. It was lit from above. And there was like a lighting, concept where when she first goes in her bathroom, there's, I don't know if there was a white backdrop, so it was meant to symbolize the bath, or represent the bathroom. So the back, what you saw behind her was white. And then when they're coming together, we had like lights with red. So she was water, so all the colors, like if you see the film, all the colors associated with her are blues. In her house there's lots of blue, like, so, and he was fire, and together when they came, you have rust. So kind of like I don't know if you can see this, but anyways,
yes.
So that, you know, that kind of like, so there's like a lot of, if you look at the colors, the imagery of what they are and how they come together. Oh yeah, so that was the color scheme of when they're coming together. We had red and blue gels over the lights, and the lights would, so the gels were set up and the lights would swing. So as they're coming together, and the idea was that basically there is like that place in between timelines where they're meeting.
The alchemy.
And like it's, so anyways, it was an intentional lighting scheme, but there was no lights under the water. It was above water that was shutting down.
Well, I noticed that color was almost a character element in the movie. It was tones of blue with many shades of almost sea greens. And then I noticed the reds, and I kind of thought the reds were around things that were hot or dangerous, or to spark some kind of pain in a sense. His missing posters that she had made for him were outlined in red. Renata's necklaces were red. Her kitchen cabinets were red, and she wasn't eating and she was sick. She was just subsisting on crackers. And, you know, Renata came in and said, "You haven't eaten." And she's in there in the red kitchen.
Mhm.
So I thought that I didn't know if the use of red was intentional, but now you say that it was.
Well, the
Um,
cabinets happen to be red. That's
I
the
figured they might be, and it worked out
but
beautifully.
yeah, it worked
Yeah.
out. Yeah, and we were very lucky. Like I had this. That was like, like you have things in your mind, and this when I was one point in the Azores, I passed by this house that was they built these houses on rock cliffs,
Mm-hmm.
and I passed by this house and it had the door was open and I was just like walking through and I saw into the house. Through the house I saw the ocean.
Oh my
And
gosh.
yeah, and when I wrote this film, I said that's where she's gonna stay. That's what and the waves like it's and so anyway, so when we started looking for the place, we had a like he became our associate producer, but the Philippe who lives there, like we got like again, like just through some other a whole bunch of flukes connected with him. And he's a filmmaker, but they don't really have a film industry. Like we had to bring everything ourselves, including Apple boxes. So
Wow.
yeah, so he's a filmmaker, but like he makes more like videos and commercials and little things on the island.
Mm-hmm.
But he also organizes concerts. So he knows everybody on his biggest thing is he has this huge festival, which unfortunately didn't happen this year, but
Oh
and I
yeah.
was gonna go. Uh,
Oh,
it's okay. There'll be other. I'm
here.
this will pass, and it's just
Yeah.
it's just a trial that we're going through. Um,
Yes.
yes, but what's the point of where I was going with this? Oh, so the house, and so I said I have this image of this her staying in this house, and he said to me, I got the house for you. And so he brought, and that I was like, holy shit, like
You walked in and that was the
yeah.
house.
And then we had a deal with a hotel, so the crew stayed in a hotel, and I was like, I'm gonna stay in this house.
Mm-hmm.
So where Jamie's bedroom was, I stayed
Mm-hmm.
there. So I would wake up in the morning, and I would sit on the couch, watch the ocean,
Oh.
and like go over my shot list before we would go out. And you hear the water, you hear the
Mm-hmm.
ocean water, and it's sort of that like that was also when we went scouting when I was on the island. I was like, oh my God, you hear the ocean all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
for her, it so it kind of got that became an element in the stories. There's like
Absolutely.
some really awesome sound design. I think our composer, oh my God,
Oh,
like
I love that was one of my questions. How did you find the composer? And I thought that the music beautifully suited the film and was done to the right and perfect degree. Sometimes when you have emotional stories, the music overpowers as though to show the viewer this is an emotional moment, this is a sensitive moment, this is a dangerous moment, this is a moment. We like, I know what this is, stop it with the music. The
yeah.
music was perfectly placed and I loved it. How did you find your composer and how did you
Yeah,
all work?
his name is Steve Kracklow. So talented, like so amazingly talented. I had another composer of mine who's also very awesome, very talented. That I when I took time off from filmmaking. Was had kids, which took some time, took longer than I anticipated. But when I was coming back into filmmaking, I said, okay, I'm going to, because I used to assist and direct and do all kinds of stuff. And I said, I'm going to, when I come back to the industry, I just want to direct and I want to like establish myself as a director. So I went and I did, I wish it was as good as as like you guys have some really awesome film schools. But it's called the Canadian Film Center. So
Mm-hmm.
5 directors a year get in, and you just make films. You just work on your filmmaking for 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a huge privilege and pleasure, and like it was a really awesome experience. So I'd met the other composer in that program, and he loved the story and he wanted to do it, but then he got a job, and his agent wanted like $20,000. And I was like, I can't afford you. I
Yeah.
can't do this. And he
Oh.
said, okay, well, he goes, this is me 10 years ago or something like that. He goes like,
Uh-huh.
he goes, and he was kind of mentoring Steve. So, so he said, this is like, he goes, this is the next, he recommended him, and I heard his stuff. Then we kind of did like, he did like a test for us. Like, so basically I gave him 2 minutes of a scene, like two minute, where there was a lot of turns in the scene. It's
Mm-hmm.
actually when she's talking on the phone to the detective, and then she looks and she sees herself, and then she sees Isaac in the window, all that.
Yeah.
So it's like this, right? And I was like, okay, well, let's see what he does with this.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like awesome. So he would send me work. I would listen to it, and I was like, I think I'm gonna cry now because it's so good.
Yeah. Yeah. It was
So
wonderful, truly. Um, how did you find your cinematographer? The cinematography is stunning. I just, the shots, the aerial shots are magical. I mean, it was all of it was so beautiful. And as you tell me about it, did you all consciously pick the color scheme? Did it kind of come together that way? And I mean, in terms of the hues, the film has very specific hues to it. Was that done in
so so
post?
so uh, okay, different.
That was a
Okay,
lot
so,
in one
yeah,
question.
yeah. So first of all, my cinematographer is Jason Weber, super talented. I've worked with him for 20 years. So I've been making short films. I've probably made like 7 now, prior to the feature. And like, and oh, like it's funny because you know, this is like some of the people I started off with, 20 years later are like really awesome professionals. So the
Mhm.
things we were doing before, we were like experimenting and trying things. He's always had an awesome eye. But I'm like, he just, brought the game, like, 20 years later, he's like so amazing. Um, my costume designer also, like like all like the sound, this, anyways, it was a very, like, my hair and makeup person, also I worked with her for like 20 years, and it's
Mhm.
always been like, it's like my family. Like, if i
Mhm.
if i make a film, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make a film, and these people always come out.
Mhm.
I you know I hope my next film I'm gonna actually properly pay people, but it's always like, I don't have a lot of money, I have a crazy idea. Who's gonna come with me? I mean, I took these guys to the end of the earth. Like, when she's on that cliff,
Mhm.
we were there with her. It was raining sideways.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, what am I doing to everybody here? I felt like, and to her, like, it just be like, okay, now we gotta take everything off, and he's gonna kiss you, and she's like in a little, or like,
Mhm. Yeah.
a little slip. But okay, yes, and the colors. So yes, the colors were very, like I said, like, very, very intentionally, like, that was, um, so something, I guess, when you don't have money, like, I'm 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 working right now on a feature film. I'm like a director for hire. My director of photography gets 5 days of prep.
Mhm.
Um, you know, like, it's really, really sad. It's a small, low budget feature, but so my shot listing with him is 1 day out of his prep days. With Jason, it just worked out. Like, it was winter time. Neither of us were working because film really slows down. I don't know how New York works, but in Toronto, like, we get a lot of American films that come in the summertime, and it
Mhm.
goes into the fall,
Mhm.
but nobody really, not a lot of filmmaking happens in the winter.
Yeah,
Um,
it still goes in New York. I mean,
it's
throughout the
still,
year, yeah.
yeah. It's very seasonal. Well, this year is going to be crazy, but
Yeah.
who knows what's going to happen this year? But it's very, very seasonal. So it was winter time, and he was off, I was off, and he would come to my house. I'd make him soup and salad,
Mm.
and we would just like plan and plan and plan and plan. So there's a lot of like all the transitions, all the things of, like, you know, like, planned out, like the draw, like all the stuff on the bridge. everything was very like, I knew that, you know, this is the thing she was gonna like. It was. But that's how him and I work. Like we've always worked in that way where, um, like he's like he gets what's in my head,
Mm-hmm.
but what's really lovely about him is he gets what's in my head and he makes it even better. And that's what you want from
Yes.
that's
You're,
what you when you bring really good professionals together,
mm-hmm.
or you have a good team of creative people. You're
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, I was thinking blah blah blah, and then they're like, oh, you mean blah, and you're like, wow.
They can
So
manifest your vision. Yeah.
that and take it to an even higher level.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, so the color scheme was really intentional, and our the things that we shot, and how it was planned, you know, and some things like were found in editing, right? That was my,
Mm-hmm.
you know, my next, you know, great ally,
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy Sheldon Ryu, who I've also edited a number of films with, who I met at the Canadian Film Center, who's super talented, and he also directs. So he just had a short film at TIFF. He directs music
Nice.
videos. Yeah, but he's an excellent editor. So he's so yeah. It's I felt like very very fortunate, and he said to me he said to me, okay, get the film. So when I had like $60,000 from the Arts Councils, which is nothing. So I came to Jason and I said, okay, Jason, I got the script, I got $60,000, and basically they were like, if you don't use it, you have to give it back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I have, and in the end, it turned out to be more and more money came in and all this stuff. But I said, so I'm thinking it's gonna be, you know, me, you, and a focus puller and a sound person. You want to do this? And he was like, oh yeah. And if he had said no, I'd be like, okay, well, yeah, I'll just give the money back. But he was like, yeah, let's do it.
Ah,
But
wonderful.
it was like yeah, our crew at its leanest was like 13 people, and probably we're up to like 25 people, which is a lot, not a lot.
No, yeah.
But and then also Alex Jordan, oh my God, who came on board. He produces like huge shows in Toronto, and he also I've known when I started filmmaking. So there's like when we started, we would just help each other make films.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked him to look at the budget. He read the script and he's like, yeah, I think you know, I'll advise you. Like I'll executive produce. Oh, have you, you know, he was just kind of giving me advice. And then he had a film that fell through. So he had a $60 million film that fell through because it didn't have enough money.
Oh
Right.
my
So,
gosh.
and he's like, okay, he's like, you know what? He's like, you're not going to pull this off on your own. You need to concentrate on directing.
Mm-hmm.
And when he came in and he like pulled it through. So just like so many, like I said, like it was like this journey that just the right things were like, it's, you know, like when you're like doing something and it just feels like, okay, this is gonna, and I was going on instinct. I'd be like, I've learned to trust myself and my
Mm-hmm.
creative instinct
Mm-hmm.
so well now, because we're always, and I think as women also, we're not like, we're not, we don't like, often like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, or
Mm-hmm.
you know, you don't like, um, doing this and like just, you know, realizing like, you know, you have to be like thinking, you always have to be sharp, and you're always like, what am, you know, what is my instinct telling me, because
Mm-hmm.
that's the right thing. Like it's so,
Yes. And I think a woman's intuition is sadly historically been undervalued. And I think now is the time where we're stepping forward saying, no, this is it. And your film is the perfect manifestation of that, because you trusted your instinct, you trusted your gut, and you went forward, and look what you have.
oh,
It's
thank you.
so, it's gorgeous. Um, Tell me about the casting process. I looked up Fiona on IMDb, and I see that she and I actually share a film credit on an Amy Koppelman film, A Mouthful of Air, that'll be coming out next year.
Yes, awesome. I know she just did that. Oh, you weren't together with her though,
We
because I
weren't
know she's
together.
in a
No, we
scene.
had
Yeah.
different days.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. So I was
awesome.
like, oh my gosh. So a little synergy there. But how did you find Fiona? Have you worked with her before? And then the rest of the cast, how did you pull these actors together? Because everyone I thought was so uniquely and wonderfully suited to their roles.
So Fiona is, again, is, okay, so I met Fiona at Houston Film Festival when I was with at the festival with a film of mine, that was a short film of mine called Little Questions. She was at the festival because she was the lead for a film that, ironically enough, a Canadian guy shot in New York.
Mhm.
And so I went there with a friend of mine, and both of us knew him because he does script supervision on set. So and so we went to see the film in the festival, not only, but we're like, oh, we gotta go see Nesger's film, it's playing at the festival. So we went to see the film, and she was in the film, and so then in the festival, like, we sort of connect. I don't know, it was again meant to be. We wound up, like, there was like a dinner reception thing, and we wound up sitting at the same table.
Mm-hmm.
And then we just, like, connected. It was like, for the rest of the festival, we were, like, hanging out together and everything, and just laughed a lot. And then so because she lives in New York and I have family there, like, over the years, like, I'd go visit, we'd meet up a few times, just kind of kept in touch. And there's this thing where, we're both women in our 40s, kind of in this place. Like, I think I don't think it's even harder for actors. Like, and feeling like, it's okay. I'm going to tell you something really interesting. So my co-writer Catherine, she's right now in Copenhagen. So she's been there for 2 years, because going on to 2 years now, because her husband has worked there, so she moved there. And she said to me, she said, like, people actually notice me as like, they have a very different way of looking at gender. They have and it just, she's like, people, like, listen to me and respect my opinion. She goes, it's really weird. She goes, I didn't notice it. Living in Canada, you think we're, like, fairly, progressive, right?
Mm-hmm.
She
Mm-hmm.
goes, I didn't notice it until I went out there, how I was not being noticed, and how I was not, like, being, like, she's like, there's a whole, like, she was saying, like, on ads, like, you could see women of all ages,
Mm-hmm.
and all this kind of thing where, like, as you get older, like, oh, you're no longer. And it was just the feeling, like, also, like, you'd see so we had this, like, that was one thing. So when I wrote the script, I very consciously wanted it to be, like, a woman, like, getting older, so that also pregnancy is a whole other thing when you're, getting to that age of 40.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so it's a whole other choice of, like, oh, do I keep this child or not? Like, it's
Mm-hmm.
huge, right? But ironically, like, Fiona had just had a child. There's
Mm-hmm.
so many things. So okay, so this is the cool part. This is the cool part with writing this script. I went to New York, and Fiona and I spent 2 days. She was pregnant. She was like, whoa,
Mm-hmm.
really, really pregnant. We spent like 2 or 3 days just going, who's this character?
Mm-hmm.
Before I started writing anything.
Oh.
So we were like, who's this character? Who's this character, Jamie? We, like, made a history for her. Like, we did all this stuff because I always, like, she became, like, a very integral part of the writing.
Mm-hmm.
We would send her drafts. She would, like, give comments. Then at one point, Catherine and I went to New York. We rented like, a little studio, and we workshopped scenes. And then we did, like, so also Fiona is an acting coach,
Mm-hmm.
with Baxton. Is it Sharon Baxton? Is it?
I'm not familiar.
Oh my God! She's got an acting school, and so Fiona is one of the coaches of the acting school,
Mm-hmm.
of this acting method. But part of it was kind of really interesting, because part of working with her was, understanding what her process was. And
Mm-hmm.
part of the process is to experience, like, is to have private moments and experience things that aren't necessarily in the script.
Mm-hmm.
So we did like all this kind of interesting play, and found like other like scenes that became part of the script. And I don't know, it was interesting. So workshopping and working with her and working out this character. And then so that was like, so Fiona's very special, which the other actors were not like that. Like this was a whole, yeah.
Right. Well, full disclosure, I also wrote a review of the film, and one of the things that I wrote was about Fiona's performance. And I think she was so masterful at scenes of stillness, but you could see so much of what her character was thinking just through the eyes.
She's lovely.
And it was, her character's thoughts were all in the eyes as opposed to, over the top or over emoting. I thought she played it beautifully.
She's lovely. She's
Yeah.
such a lovely person. She's so lovely to work with. It was funny, and she's so brave because she did crazy things. She there's it got cut out because it was actually more dramatic to see the empty boat. But she
Mm-hmm.
actually went into the ocean and came up on the boat. She had like, we had a safety boat, and she had a diver with her in the boat.
Mm-hmm.
But she
Mm-hmm.
was so terrified of doing that, and
Mm-hmm.
she did that. And there was one point where her and I were in the boat, and she goes, you know what? It's just you and me, these two little girls that thought of this crazy thing to do, and we got everybody else spinning around us. It was just this, it's kind of it's fun.
A
Like,
magical moment right there.
yeah. Yeah, and she was also an investor in the film. She paid for her way to come to Toronto, and she had a young child. She had a 2-year-old. Can you imagine doing this with a 2-year-old? So she had her mom come from the UK and stay
Mm-hmm.
with her son, and then went to the Azores with us with her son.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was, she's amazing. I'm like, yeah, she's amazing.
Well, I enjoyed her performance. Tell me about Luke Robinson. I thought that the chemistry between Fiona and Luke was wonderful.
Yeah,
It was palpable. The
yeah.
scenes between the two of them were hard to take your eyes off of.
Oh, thank you. Well,
Yeah.
I hope somebody hears this, because I want them to hear this. They're both awesome. Um, Luke didn't like, so originally, like, because I didn't, okay, so there's like a whole big thing, but anyways, I couldn't afford to go with union actors in Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to go non-union, because basically there's like lower rates for low budget films,
Mm-hmm.
but because we were going out of the country, then we didn't qualify for anything. So I was having to pay very, very high rates
Mm-hmm.
that I was never budgeted for. I couldn't afford. So
Mm-hmm.
then Joanne Borham, who was our casting director,
Mm-hmm.
uh, helped, and she's helping with other films too. So so she helped in the casting, and yeah, and Luke came up for the casting, and I was like, yeah, this is it. He was great. He didn't have a lot of experience. And the first thing, it's funny, when first time I met with him for coffee, he was late. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
you can't ever be late. And then the next thing he asked me, he said, can I do my own stunts? And I was like, no. Well, like, we did have for the bike stuff with the car, there was a
Mm-hmm.
stunt performer. He
Mm-hmm.
said, can I do it? And I was like, no. So,
How did you do that stunt? Did you actually send someone over the bridge,
oh, no,
or?
no, 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 of
Okay.
course not.
Okay.
No.
Well, I mean, it certainly looks like it.
Yeah,
Film.
but so it's so there was like a stunt performer riding a bike,
Mm-hmm.
there was a car being driven. There's a whole bunch of coverage of it. There is a car, like, there's, oh my God, we had the camera like rigged up all over the car in different positions so you could see the
Mm-hmm.
bike coming in. And then there's a shot of literally like the bike going up over.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like, so you just cut it together. There's a shot of the car spinning.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, yeah, nobody went over the bridge. But so yeah, there is a shot, and that was a stunt of the guy driving and the car cutting him off, and
Mm-hmm.
he what he did is fall on a mat. But
Uh-huh.
they were a lot further apart. It's just where the
Mm-hmm.
camera,
Yeah.
like stunts are all about camera. And then we had like a really awesome, stunt coordinator. But stunts are all about where the camera angle is, so things look a lot closer. Well,
Yeah.
it's not all about that. It's a lot about a lot of things, but yeah. So it was a stunt but nobody went over the bridge. He just he just had a bat that he fell on to.
Mm-hmm.
Ruined the
Well,
magic.
well, for being a newer actor, he certainly gave a wonderful performance.
Yeah, and he just got better and better, like as we were shooting,
Mm-hmm.
and he was so just like lovely and so open to direct, like to playing and to direction, to trying things. Like I think that's so like, and then, and this is like nothing to do with acting. He was like, he could have been, because we didn't use him every day, so he could have been like touring the island and going to the beach and
Mm-hmm.
actually the beach wasn't that, it was April, but he could have been doing a lot of things. But every day he would come out and just be like, what can I do? And he like dragged sandbags around, like whatever. I was like,
Oh.
he was just like always help, and I would just be like, no, go like tour the island, like do something. He's like,
Mm-hmm.
nope, I'm with you guys. So if he wasn't acting, and because I would never ask an actor to like, like,
Yeah.
go
On their
go
day off to come
yeah,
haul
but
some
he was just
equipment.
like, no, he's like, I want to do this. Like he was
Oh,
always,
that's
um,
great
yeah,
and rare.
and rare, yeah,
Yeah.
and that's yeah, and like that's not what made him a good actor. He was just a very very good person and very kind, and yeah, and I think that's like a big thing, like for actors, like he was open and listening, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
um,
I mean, the first date scene was so flirtatious and so sweet. And he was so confident when, she says, maybe in a parallel dimension, you come up to my apartment, and he's like, and good night. And just so beautifully walks off in such a sweet way. Yeah. Um, Tell me about Stacy Bernstein, Renata.
Stacy, I like was very. She played the character like in this very kind of straight way, and that was her interpretation of it. And she did it. She brought to the character, I think, like a sternness that was like that worked for a scientist, and
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I
so.
loved her hair, makeup, and wardrobe.
Oh,
It
I will tell Joanna
was,
Sircomla
it was
and Laura McCann about that. So Joanna was like,
her
"Oh,
lipstick was always perfect. Her
yeah,
hair was
yeah,
immaculate, and her costumes were so unique and like
yeah."
perfect for her character. Yeah.
That was like that because Jamie, she was, she's kind of in mourning, and she was very like down to earth,
Yeah.
uh, and everybody, and so Renata was our character. It was a character to have fun with and
Um,
play.
Detective Roberts.
Yeah,
I loved the actress Edwidge.
Edwidge. Yeah,
Edwidge.
Edwidge. It's French.
Edwidge.
Yeah.
Edwidge. Yeah, I enjoyed her performance. And Mark, the assistant.
Yes. He's yeah.
I didn't see the
Sebastian Deary.
breakfast, the scene coming when he serves her at breakfast.
Yeah.
I was very surprised. um, so, and how did you meet Edwidge and Mark, Sebastian?
Yeah, those guys all came to audition.
Okay.
And actually, no,
And
that's not true. Sebastian, I had, there was another script that, maybe one day we'll see the light of day, but I had a table read for it,
mhm.
and he came out to read one of the characters, and I was like, oh, this guy's great.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so when we were casting, I was like, oh, I think he's going to make a great Sebastian. And yeah.
And then I guess the last one would be Miguel. How did
Oh
you?
yeah, Miguel. He's so awesome. It's
Yeah.
funny, like I show the film and there's a whole bunch of ladies that swoon and
Oh, of course.
will go, who's Miguel? Miguel is, okay, this is funny enough. It's Miguel de Mian. And so he's actually a relative of my husband's. It's so funny.
Ah.
The island's very small. No, it's true though. A lot of people are related, but um, we were for originally like we were going to go with one person, another person. Like we wanted things were kind of like falling through, and I knew of him, and he's a
Mhm.
big soap star in Portugal.
Oh,
He is. He's like he's our biggest actor
I can
in the
see.
film.
I can see that though. He looks like a
Yeah,
soap star. Yeah, he's
he's
beautiful.
totally he's just again like a lovely individual, like and kind and really really fun. And he was I contacted him and he was doing a play, so he's like, oh, I'm not available. And then our schedule shifted, and we wound up filming over the weekend, and our day off was during the week.
Hmm.
And so because we're filming over the weekend, he said, like, I was, because we were like communicating through through Facebook, and he's like, and I don't know why. I was like, I said, if you could make it on these 2 days, we could do this.
Hmm.
And he's like, okay, I'm coming to the island. And yeah, and he just like, we flew him in, and he did his thing for 2 days, and we just scheduled around that so we can shoot him in 2 days.
Wow.
He's awesome.
And then the locals, or the people in the bar, were they locals to the island?
The people in the bar listening to the Fado.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yes,
Yeah.
the photo
So
singer.
yeah, the Fado singer's local. Everybody else, yeah. Uh, there's sometimes when you see people, it's a lot of our crew that I would just be like, okay, walk through there, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
or
yeah,
go sit in there. Like it's fun.
yeah,
Yeah. I know all the like. Oh, and I wanted to say the drone work. So
yeah.
Rob Turi is. So he was okay. So he's a sound person, like a mixer. So usually you have a mixer and then you have somebody that does boom.
Hmm.
So he did like he mixed in the bag and did like documentary style.
Hmm.
And he's also a pilot, and he flies drones.
Uh-huh.
So which just happened. He happened to be all in. Like it's so funny. I think a lot of like people did more than one job. Like Laura
Hmm.
did hair and makeup, and and Alex is the one that brought him onto the show. And he said, oh, it's great because Rob also flies. And again, like Rob wasn't working in the winter time because it was wasn't on a show yet, and wanted to go to the Azores. And he was great. The drone work is fantastic.
Breathtaking. Yeah.
Yeah.
I um I like the drone shot of Fiona running through the forest too on the trail.
Yeah.
It was one of my favorite drone shots.
She was afraid to run through there.
Why?
I don't know. She's funny. She's like, oh, it's the forest. I'm afraid of it. Like it was getting dark. It wasn't even foresty. I'm like, you got to come to Canada. I'll teach you what forests are.
Yeah.
That's not
Yeah.
a forest. Yeah. But it was good.
So
It gave her energy.
yeah, a
You,
little adrenaline. Absolutely. Yeah, my husband and I honeymooned in Costa Rica, and we were down around Arenal volcano during a hike, and we had gotten on a trail that just kept leading us in this circle, and the sun was starting to go down.
oh
And someone had told
wow.
us that a certain heat sensing snake came out to feed just before sunset. And I was putting on my fleece. I'm like, I'm in Costa Rica wearing a fleece because I'm so terrified. I'm like, must keep the body heat in. Don't let the heat sensing snake to get me. And we're running in circles. And I was terrified. And my husband is laughing at me like, what is wrong with you? You're creating more heat. I'm like, I just gotta
Yeah.
keep it in. Yeah, so I can empathize. So what is next for the film? What are the next steps?
I don't
Where?
know. It's been kind of sad because I feel like it really got buried by COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and this is Portland was our premiere, world
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because for a while it was just kind of not really getting into festivals, and it was just like hard to. And then it's playing at LA Femme
Mm-hmm.
in LA. And then we have our Canadian world premiere, and I'm not allowed to say which festival yet because we've been accepted, but we can't
Okay.
announce.
All right.
Not good, yeah. But yeah, so we're
Okay.
gonna have in December. We're gonna have our Canadian world premiere, and we'll see. We'll see. We have a Canadian distributor. I'm looking for like the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't have like it's very hard for independent films because there's no star names.
Yeah.
So I really don't know what it's done for me has been great because a producer, well, actually the first AD that worked, oh yeah, of course, Alan McKenna, our first AD, because we only had one. In Toronto, we had two ADs, and
Mm-hmm.
the Azores, it was just one AD, like running the whole show, and he was amazing. And so he introduced me. He's working with this company now that's doing these films. So he introduced me, and so now I'm making my third feature now with them, but not like it's like I'm a director for hire. So it's their
Mm-hmm.
scripts and very much
Mm-hmm.
different from the stuff from the stuff
Yeah.
I make. But I love directing. I'm it's such a blast, and I feel very fortunate for the
And you're
opportunity.
obviously great at it. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your time with me.
Can I ask you where I can get your review? Where I could read
I
it?
can email it to you if you like, if I'm allowed, I guess. I don't know.
Is it posted? Like how does it?
It's for the Portland
Sorry.
Festival. Oh, Sterling, can you answer us?
So sorry to interrupt that. What a beautiful and wonderful interview. This was so lovely to be a silent fly on the wall too. We will have this up on filmcritic.co ASAP, essentially, and we will definitely send that to you right away. And of course, Monica, you are more than welcome to. You have all the license to do whatever you would like with your writing. So yes, feel free to share. And yeah, thank you so much, Virginia. We really, really, really appreciate your time. And I also really loved your film. So
Oh, thank you, guys. Thank you for running the festival. Thank you for having my film there. And I'm heartbroken I can't come to Portland because I've been there once, and Portland is awesome.
Right, I agree. Well, yes, thank you. So thank you so much for bringing your film to Portland. We were so happy to have you, and yes, thank you, Monica, as well. This was beautiful and wonderful.
It was a pleasure, Monica. Thank you for chatting.
So nice to meet you and speak with you, and I wish you much success.
Thank you. And I'm gonna when the film comes out,
mm-hmm.
the one with Fiona and you in it.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a very small world.
It is.
It's a very small world. All the best to you guys. And you know, I know there's a lot of stuff going on in New York right now. So
yeah, thank you.
Wishing you guys all the best.
Okay.
Likewise.
Well, until next time.
Yes. Yeah.
Both.
I'm sure there'll be. Yeah.
Paths will cross again. Yeah.
Paths will cross.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you guys. Take care. Have a great day. Bye-bye. Or
too.
evening. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's been a long one.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye-bye. Good night.